There was a moment when games stopped feeling like games. Not gradually, not quietly, but all at once. For a lot of players in the early 2000s, that moment came with Grand Theft Auto 3. Before it, games had rules you could see clearly. Levels had boundaries. Objectives were obvious. Worlds felt designed. You knew where the edges were. You knew what you could and couldn't do. Even when games were open, they still felt controlled. GTA 3 didn't feel controlled. It felt like something else entirely. The first thing that stood out wasn't the missions. It wasn't even the story. It was the city. Liberty City didn't feel like a level. It felt like a place. Cars moved, whether you interacted with them or not. Pedestrians walked with no purpose connected to you. Police responded to actions dynamically. There was no clear start and end to what you were supposed to do. And that lack of structure was unfamiliar. You could follow missions, or you could ignore them completely. You could drive aimlessly for hours. You could create your own chaos. And that freedom felt real in a way games hadn't managed before. It wasn't just open, it was reactive. If you hit a car, it didn't disappear, it reacted. If you caused trouble, the game didn't reset you quietly. It escalated. Police attention increased. Tension built. Consequences existed. That sense of consequence made every action feel heavier. Even something simple like stealing a car felt different. You weren't just interacting with a mechanic. You were interrupting a world. And that interruption had weight. There's something important about that feeling. Because realism in games isn't always about graphics. It's about behavior. It's about whether the world responds in a believable way. GTA 3 created that illusion. And for players experiencing it at the time, it felt almost shocking. Not visually perfect, but systemically alive. The radio stations added another layer. Music wasn't just background noise, it was part of the world. Changing stations while driving didn't feel like adjusting settings, it felt like controlling your environment. Hearing different genres, different voices, different tones made the city feel varied, alive, personal. You weren't just moving through space, you were experiencing it. Even silence had meaning. Driving at night with minimal sound created a completely different mood than speeding through the city with loud music playing. That dynamic atmosphere made the experience feel unpredictable. And unpredictability creates realism, because real environments aren't scripted. They don't exist purely for your benefit. GTA 3 captured that feeling, and it changed expectations overnight. Players weren't just impressed, they were unsettled, not in a horror sense, but in a "this feels different" sense. It felt like the game wasn't entirely under your control, and that's a powerful shift, because most games empower players quickly. GTA 3 gave you freedom, but not comfort. You could do anything, but everything had a reaction. That reaction made the world feel independent, like it existed whether you were there or not. That illusion is difficult to create, but when it works, it stays with you. For many players, GTA 3 wasn't something they played in short sessions. It was something they lived in. You'd turn it on without a plan, drive around, explore, cause chaos. Then suddenly realize hours had passed. Not because you were completing objectives, but because the world held your attention. That's different from traditional gameplay loops. That's immersion, and immersion creates memory. The missions themselves were varied, but they weren't always the focus. Sometimes the most memorable moments weren't scripted at all, they were accidental. A police chase that escalated unexpectedly, a crash that turned into chaos, a random moment that felt personal. because you created it. Those unscripted experiences are what made the game feel real. Because real life isn't scripted, it's unpredictable. And GTA 3 embraced that unpredictability. There was also a shift in tone. Previous games often felt designed for younger audiences. Bright colours, clear heroes and villains, simple motivations. GTA 3 felt morally grey. You weren't saving the world. You weren't the hero. You were navigating a space that didn't reward you for doing the right thing. And that ambiguity felt mature. It didn't tell you how to feel. It let you decide. For many players, that was new. It felt like stepping into a world that wasn't simplified. That didn't explain itself. That didn't guide you constantly. And that lack of guidance made it feel more real. There's also something important about the timing. The early 2000s were a transition period for gaming. Hardware was improving, expectations were rising, players were ready for something bigger. Something that didn't feel like a game in the traditional sense. It felt like a world, and that's why GTA 3 remains so important. Not because it was perfect, but because it shifted perception. It made players look at games differently. It made them expect more. It made them realize that immersion wasn't about graphics alone. It was about interaction, behavior, reaction, and most importantly, freedom.
From the arcade to the midnight